In today's episode, we're talking about how you can choose the right scheduling tool for your clients.
Welcome to the podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Agora Pulse, which is very fitting because we're diving into how you can choose the right scheduler for you. If you're new here, welcome. We are the Two Lauras and we're here to help you grow your business as a freelance social media manager. We've helped over 4,000 freelancers in our programs over the past few years, and we're really excited to help you too. So if we're not already connected, come and say hello on social media. We're on all platforms as @the Two Lauras.
Okay, so it's worth saying that along with how much do I charge, what scheduler should I use is one of the most commonly asked questions in the Social Media Managers Hub, which is our free Facebook group. It comes up all the time. And I find it really interesting that people ask this all the time because I think it's quite a personal decision. Do you?
Yeah, I agree. It's like, what bread shall I buy? Well, whatever bread you like.
Yeah, well, exactly. So there you go. Whatever you like.
Totally relevant metaphor there, as usual from me.
Yeah, so basically, choose what you like. Okay, bye.
No, I think it is worth saying that although I think it is a very personal decision, I think that decision needs to be made on some very specific steps, which is what we're going to talk about in this podcast. So yes, it is a personal decision, but it's not just a case of just plucking one out of Google and going with it, I don't think.
No. So what is the first thing we need to do? Because there are a lot out there. Obviously, there's the big ones, but there's loads of other ones that, like, people mention schedulers all the time that I've never heard of, like quite small, new ones.
And I think it's worth saying as well, when you and I first started, like, you couldn't schedule in the platforms like you can do now. And there was maybe a handful of scheduling tools around back then. I remember using the free Buffer plan, which was absolute pants. But it was one of the only options that there was at the time. Like, this is going back years now. Buffer's probably great.
In your opinion.
There just wasn't the options. And also at that point, all they did was schedule. So I think the first thing you need to decide is, what do you actually want this tool to do? Because yes, we're talking about it doing scheduling, but these tools do way more than just scheduling now, don't they?
Yeah, they're amazing actually in what a lot of these schedulers can do and how they can make your lives so much easier. So for me, obviously for my clients, a lot of it comes down to efficiency. How can I do my job as easily as possible? So I'm looking for features within a platform that is going to make my life a lot easier. So I'm going to be looking at the reporting features. It's probably the main thing. But there are much more obvious things you need to think about. Not all schedulers schedule for all platforms. So you're going to be able to filter out quite a lot. You know, if for example, you're wanting to schedule to Instagram and Pinterest, there's not actually there are many, but as in you can get rid of quite a lot because there are quite a few that don't schedule to Pinterest, for example. So looking at that very basic level, that's going to help you clear some of them.
And if you only work on one platform, you might want to choose a tool that specialises in that one platform and only offers things for that one platform. Because you can probably hazard a guess that they will be an expert in that platform and every single feature that you want will probably be in that tool.
Yeah, so as I say, I always look for things like reporting when I'm looking at schedulers, but I know a lot of people look at can they engage, can they answer DMs, can they answer comments, can they do that within a scheduler? For some people that's really important, especially if you've got a big team and you need to try to keep on top of who's commenting on what and you're able to kind of assign tasks or not. A lot of social media managers want content approval. I personally don't work with clients who want approval on content. It's just not my bag. I can't work like that. So that isn't important to me, but I know for a lot of social media managers it is important because that's a stipulation of working with a particular client maybe. So content approval is good. So yeah, you need to decide what features are important to you. And this is why it's a personal decision. It's got to be personal to you, but obviously also going to work with the clients that you work for and the platforms that you work on.
And I think that kind of brings us on to the second thing, which is budget.
Yeah.
Because the more features you want, probably the more expensive it's going to be, the more you're going to have to spend. But also, it's not just necessarily the features, it's how many clients have you got? And do you have to pay per client in that scheduler? And, so you need to look at all of that sort of stuff as well. And yes, like there are free options out there. Like I said, when I first started, I used to use the free buffer plan and it did the job. It didn't do a great job, but it did the job. So, if you're at the very beginning of your business, I don't think there's anything wrong with choosing a scheduler based on your budget and maybe going for something free or cheap to start with. But I think you need to bear in mind two things, actually. I think you need to bear in mind that probably the cheaper you go, the less support and maybe the less features you're going to get. But also it shouldn't be your expense. Like we all think, we need to cut back and we need to spend less money on these tools. But that isn't your expense. That's an expense you should be passing on to the client. It should be built into your fee because it is making you do their job quicker and faster and easier.
I remember when I started, I had a few clients and I wasn't charging particularly well. So I was using each client had their own free scheduler. So I was having to jump between lots of different schedulers because I didn't want to have to pay for any of them. And I very quickly, it was all part of my very early on learning around pricing, that actually for me, it's about being as efficient as I can be. It's getting the most work done, when I'm quite time limited and, and I was then and I still am now. And I think for me that I realised, hang on a minute, this is ridiculous. I just need to up my prices so I can afford the things I need to do my job well. And I think there's a lesson for everybody in that. If you need a certain tool to do your job, you need to be earning enough to pay for that. And so put your prices up. Everybody has tools in their business. A builder has tools. A dentist has tools. There's things they all need. A hairdresser has their own scissors. We all have to invest in the tools. And for social media managers, you want to invest in the best that you can afford. Imagine going to a hairdresser's and they've bought their nail scissors in because they can't afford to use hairdressing scissors. So they buy the best because it's going to give them the best results. So they have customers coming back and back and back and back. And that's the same for you and what you need to invest in. And I think social media schedulers, we often are all too quick to look for the cheapest or the free. And as I say, I've been there. Obviously Laura has as well. And I totally get it. But actually, there comes a point where you've got to think, hang on, could I do this better if I just invested a little bit? And then you think, okay, well, to invest in that, it's going to cost me this amount a year. So I work with 5 clients. Let's divide that cost by 5 as an argument's sake. And let's make sure that I up my prices enough in the next month, 6 months, whenever you're going to next up your prices, to ensure that you can afford that without actually having an impact on your take-home pay.
I think people forget that time is money. So like when you're logging in and out of all of these different free schedulers, that's taking you time, Yeah, you're not paying for it, but you're paying for it in time that you're probably not being paid for properly.
Yeah. So I totally get it, but don't go cheap. Invest, because
buy cheap, buy twice.
Well, exactly. And it does make a difference. It makes such a difference to me having invested in good schedulers.
Yeah, we often see people who are in the Facebook group and online who are using like built-in tools within Meta, for example, like in Facebook Business Suite, I think it's called these days. Or is it still called Creator Studio? I can't remember. Anyway, it changes its name all the time. Whichever one they're using. And then they're complaining that maybe a post didn't go out and what have you. Now, if that had happened on a tool that you're paying for, you know that you're going to get support. You know that if that tool goes down, you're going to know about it. You're going to get an email or what have you. But if you're using something free and that happens, you don't really have any comeback, So it's kind of risky, isn't it?
Yeah, I hate the inbuilt, integrated schedulers. They're just not reliable.
They're no good.
I've had too many bumps in the road with those to trust them now. So sometimes it works, sometimes it can... I can quickly shove something in a scheduler, but I certainly wouldn't for a client. I'd maybe do it for us.
Charming.
Yeah, it's just not worth taking the risk when, especially if you don't realise straight away and the post hadn't gone out the night before and it was a really important post, and then you've got your client on your back and you're going, oh my God.
And it's the weekend and you don't really want to do any work on the weekend and now you've got to fix this problem. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't basically just choose based on the price of the tool, but do obviously look at the things that you want within that tool. And I think once you've decided what it is that you want and you've found something that's, it does need to obviously be within a budget, but you found the options, the next thing I would suggest is that you go and take a trial. Yeah. Because there's so many different ways that these different tools work. And unless you've actually tried them and you've gone and tasted the bread, you won't know if they work right for you and they provide what it is that you want. And somebody else might say to you, oh yeah, this tool is amazing. And you go and use it and you find it really complicated. Or you're like, well, it doesn't, like this little thing niggles me and I don't like it. So I would definitely, I've tried out so many tools over the years, which won't come as a surprise to Laura Davis because I'm always saying, I've just found this tool. But I try them all because you never know what's going to stick and what's going to help you. And a lot of them will give you a free trial. In fact, if you want to try Agora Pulse for free, if you go to the 2lauras.com/Agora Pulse, you can have a 2-month trial on there. That's quite a long time to get to grips with the tool and see if it works for you.
Yeah, it's a really long time.
Go and try them out. If you're looking for a way to stay organised, save time and easily manage your social media, you should check out Agora Pulse. Their scheduling tool, inbox and monitoring systems mean that you can get more done in less time without the distraction of the social media news feeds. We are big fans of Agora Pulse and we've used it for years for our own businesses and for our clients. And if you want to try it out for free for 2 months, just go to the 2lauras.com/Agora Pulse.
Yeah, because I think that is where, and I keep saying this, but I think that is the point where your personal preference will shine. Because for some people, you're really, really going to love maybe a drag and drop feature, whereas somebody else that just would not be important to them. But for you who loves the drag and drop and you get in there and realise you can't drag and drop anything, you're like, God, this is not going to work for me. So there's those little things that maybe are how you're used to working. And sometimes it could just be, I know it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but if it just doesn't look nice.
Yeah.
You spend, as a social media manager, you spend a lot of time in a scheduler. So you've got to feel like it works, it's smooth, it's not glitchy. And yes, a lot of schedulers have glitches, they all do. And that's 9 times out of 10 not down to their fault, that's down to the platform's fault. But you want it to work for you and it be easy and enjoyable and not confusing, and that's where you do just have to try. And that's why the trials are so important. And actually, when you're on the trial, go and ask for the help, get on their chat support or whatever they have, see how responsive they are, see how useful they are. Is it an automated bot or is it an actual person? Those kind of things are all going, because there's no point going, oh yeah, I love this one. And then you start spending money and then 2 months down the line, you've got a problem and you realise that their support is absolutely shocking, because it's your reputation with your client that potentially is at risk when these things don't work in your favour. So yeah, definitely press all the buttons, do the trial, press all the buttons, get on the chat and have a good test of them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also worth saying that there is no one perfect scheduler out there that is perfect for everybody, because it is personal choice. And it's one of those things where often we'll be like, oh, we'll try this tool. Oh, I'm not really sure. So we'll go and try another one. Oh, I'm not really sure. Let me try another one. And you just try so many different things. Whereas actually, if you'd have just stuck with one in the first place, you probably would have found that it would have worked really well for you, because there is no perfect thing. Maybe if they all mash together, there might be a perfect tool. But right now there isn't. So you kind of have to just stick a pin in it, decide which one you're going to try. And in the words of the 2 Lauras, JFDI.
Yeah.
Just go for it. Okay, so as I said, we've tried a lot. It probably won't come as a great surprise to hear that we use Agora Pulse, because obviously they do sponsor our podcast, but that is what we use. And Laura's talked a little bit earlier about reporting, which is one of the features that we use in there. You use this for your clients all the time, don't you? Because it kind of automates it. Is that right?
Oh, I absolutely love it. I cannot explain to you how much I love it. Like, I used to like create my end of month reports manually. So I'd pull in all the numbers and at the start that was fine. Quite liked it, had the time. I don't have the time now. So it's all automated. You just tell Agorapulse what you want to have in the report. So obviously there's features which might not be relevant to my client. So I untick those boxes and make sure the things that I do want in there are ticked. And then you can have it automatically email your client if you want to, but I have it on the same day every month emailed to me. I then go through it, check it's all looking good, and then I forward that on to my client with just like a bit of a summary, top level, a few, what's worked that month. Add in my ads reporting, which I do separately, and then I send it, and that's it. It literally probably takes me about 5 minutes a month.
Yeah. Another couple of things that I like about Agorapulse, look, we've used the social listening, haven't we, in there? So you can put like keywords in and it will alert you when those keywords come up, which is quite useful. It's really useful for like responding to comments and like messages without having to get sucked into the rabbit hole of opening Instagram, for example, and scrolling through everything. You can just do it all in Agorapulse. So it does definitely save us time and stop us from being distracted.
Yeah. And for us, obviously, it also helps that there's the way that you can tag the different people within your team. So there's no duplication, there's no people responding to the same comments. It's all it's just really well done. But I 100% would spend loads of money for that reporting alone. So simple, so useful. And it's good as well. The reports are really good. They look good. Yeah, they're good. It's just good.
Are they good, by the way?
They're really good.
You'd recommend?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's, in essence, how we would make a decision on finding the best schedulers. And I think it's worth saying you never have to settle. If a new scheduler comes along, or maybe a scheduler that you considered previously, but they didn't have a feature that you wanted, and then they roll something out, or they roll out a new platform that they're working on, then just go have a look at it. Don't ever just think, okay, well, I've chosen my scheduler. I'm now going to stick with that forever and a day. Like, it just doesn't work like that. Other better ones may come along. So go and use those trials and test other ones, because, you just don't know what you're missing. You could like halve your scheduling time, for example, by using something else, or you halve your reporting time like I've done. So to recap, we are going to decide what features you actually want for a platform, what do you want it to do, on what platforms, those kind of things. You're going to want to think about your budget. Obviously, there needs to be a budget, but don't necessarily go for the cheapest or the free ones. And consider your pricing for your clients if you can't afford a scheduler, because you should be able to. Then you're going to want to trial it, and you're going to want to trial the buttons. Does it work? Does it do what you want it to do? Does it just feel nice? But also go and look at the customer service, get on their chats, see if they respond well, test all elements essentially before you make the decision.
And let us know which one you choose. Come and drop into our DMs. We're always hanging around, ready to have a chat. And we'll be back same time, same place next week.
Toodle pip.
Ta-ra!